Imagine being completely alone. No food, no water, and no way out. The freezing cold biting into your skin, the sun burning you alive, or worse. Something lurking in the dark, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. These are not just stories. They are real-life nightmares. And you won't believe what happened to the man in story number 1, because what he encountered should not exist. Number 10. 76 days lost at sea. Alone. A man, a tiny boat, and an ocean that wanted him dead. Stephen Callahan had dreamed of crossing the Atlantic in his small sailboat. But just 1 week into his journey, disaster struck. A sudden explosion. The boat cracked open like an eggshell, swallowing Stephen into the endless abyss of the Atlantic. With barely any time to react, he scrambled onto a tiny life raft as his boat disappeared beneath the waves forever. No food, no fresh water, no hope. Days turned into weeks. The sun scorched his skin. Sharks circled beneath him, their dark silhouettes a constant reminder that he was nothing more than prey. But then, on day 50, something horrifying happened. As Stephen lay half-conscious, he heard a sound, something massive rubbing against the bottom of his raft. Was it another shark? No. This was different. It was too big, too silent, and it wasn't leaving. Whatever it was waiting. Stephen was about to discover that sometimes the ocean doesn't just kill you. It toys with you first. Number 9, buried alive in ice for 60 hours, and somehow survived. Imagine waking up in complete darkness. You try to move, but your body is frozen stiff. You try to breathe, but the air is razor sharp. And then you realize you are buried alive. This is exactly what happened to Peter Skillberg, a Swedish man whose car got trapped in a brutal blizzard. In just a few hours, his vehicle was completely swallowed by ice and snow, turning it into a frozen coffin. No food, no water, no way out. Temperatures outside dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius, minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to kill a person in just a few hours. But somehow Peter survived for 60 hours without any heat. Scientists couldn't believe it. How did his body not shut down? Then rescuers found something in his car that changed everything. Something no one could explain. Was it luck? Or did Peter experience something unnatural? Number 8. The woman who fell 10,000 feet and walked away. Falling from an airplane without a parachute equals instant death, right? Tell that to Julianne Köpke. At just 17 years old, she was flying over the Amazon rainforest when her plane was struck by lightning. A deafening boom. The plane was ripped apart in midair. And Julianne, she was still strapped to her seat, plummeting 10,000 feet towards the jungle. No parachute. No time to think. Just endless screaming freefall. She crashed through the dense treetops, breaking her bones as she smashed into the ground. Silence. When Julianne woke up, she was still alive. But her nightmare had only begun. She was stranded in the most dangerous jungle on Earth, surrounded by jaguars, venomous snakes, and insects that could eat her alive. And then, she heard something moving in the trees. She wasn't alone. But what was watching her wasn't human. Number 7. The diver who was swallowed by a whale and lived to tell the tale. Michael Packard, an experienced lobster diver, was deep in the ocean when suddenly everything went dark. Crushing pressure, no sound, no light, no escape. At first, he thought he had been swallowed by a great white shark. But as his hands reached around, there were no teeth. Just a massive, living cavern, squeezing tighter and tighter. That's when he realized the horrifying truth. He was inside the mouth of a humpback whale. No human had ever survived this before. The whale dove deeper and deeper, taking Michael down with it. He could feel the powerful muscles contracting around him. He was running out of air. His lungs were on fire. And then, something happened that no scientist could explain. The whale changed its mind. With one enormous push, it spat him out like he was nothing. But why? What made the whale spare him? Was it an accident? Or something else? Michael Packard still doesn't know. And neither does anyone else. Number 6. A man survives 437 days alone in the Pacific. Jose Salvador Alvarenga, a fisherman from Mexico, set out on a short fishing trip. But a raging storm destroyed his boat's engine and sent him drifting into the vast, empty Pacific. Days turned into weeks. The sun scorched his skin. His lips cracked, his body weakened. There was no land in sight, no rescue, no hope, just the endless, merciless ocean. He survived by catching fish with his bare hands and drinking rainwater and turtle blood. But the worst part, he wasn't alone. At night, something moved beneath his boat. Something massive. At first, he thought it was a shark. But sharks don't follow a boat for months. Something was watching him. For 437 days, he fought against the ocean, against starvation, against madness. And then, out of nowhere, a small island appeared. Jose had drifted 6,700 miles, 10,800 kilometers, from where he started. A journey no human should have survived. But here's the strangest part. Scientists examined his body and found something that shouldn't have been there. Something unnatural. Before we dive into the most unbelievable survival stories yet, I have one request. Please subscribe. Because hitting your subscribe button can give me new motivation to work harder and succeed. Now, get ready, because the next 5 stories will leave you absolutely speechless. Number 5. The man who climbed a mountain with broken legs. Most people wouldn't survive a single night in the freezing wilderness with shattered legs. But Joe Simpson? He climbed down an entire mountain, alone. Joe was on a dangerous expedition in the Peruvian Andes when he slipped and fell into an ice crevasse. His leg snapped instantly, bone piercing through his skin. He was trapped in total darkness, buried in ice, bleeding, and completely alone. His partner thought he was already dead and left him there. But Joe refused to die. With one useless leg, he began dragging himself down the mountain inch by inch. Freezing winds tore at his body. His hands blistered. His bones screamed in pain. For 3 days and nights, he crawled without food or water. Then, just when he thought he had escaped the worst, he heard something behind him. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an avalanche. And whatever it was getting closer. Number 4. The man who survived a 19,000-volt electric shock. Surviving a lightning strike is one thing. Surviving 19,000 volts of direct electricity is something else entirely. Roy Sullivan, a park ranger, was struck by lightning not once, not twice, but 7 times. Each time he survived. Doctors said it was impossible. Scientists had no explanation. And people started to whisper. Was Roy just unlucky? Or was something following him? Then, in 1983, Roy was found dead. But here's the twist. It wasn't from lightning. Something else got to him first. Number 3. The hunter who lost his face and kept fighting. Mauro Prosperi was an experienced runner competing in a desert ultramarathon. But one wrong turn sent him straight into hell. A violent sandstorm struck, blinding him. By the time it passed, he was alone. No food, no water, just endless dunes of burning sand stretching for thousands of miles. For 10 days, he wandered through the Sahara. His tongue swelled, his skin cracked. Then his body started to shut down. Desperate, he made a choice most people wouldn't even consider. He cut open a bat and drank its blood. That kept him alive. But what he saw the next night? That's the part he refuses to talk about. Number 2. The woman who survived 30,000 feet in free fall. Imagine sitting on a plane, thousands of feet in the air, when suddenly the entire plane explodes. This happened to Vesna Vulovic. She was blown out of the aircraft at 33,000 feet, without a parachute. No human should have survived. The impact should have been instant death. But somehow, she woke up. Rescuers found her in the wreckage, alive, but in shock. How did she survive? Some scientists believe it was pure luck. Others think the trees slowed her fall. But local villagers say something else was at work. Something that didn't want her to die. Number 1. The man who fought a grizzly bear. And won. If a grizzly bear attacks you, you have 0 chance of survival. Unless you're Jim Corbett. Jim was deep in the forests of India when he came face to face with an enormous bear. 6 feet tall, over 600 pounds, and it was hungry. The bear lunged, claws slicing through his skin. Jim had no weapon, no escape, just his bare hands. Then, something unthinkable happened. Jim grabbed the bear's throat and held on for dear life. For over 5 minutes they fought, a man and a beast locked in a deadly battle. When it was over, only one was left standing, and Jim's story would become legend. What do you think? Which survival story shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more mind-blowing top 10s, hit that subscribe button now, because hitting your subscribe button can give me new motivation to work harder and succeed. See you in the next video.